Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PRH Book and Author Festival. My name is Kristen Pizzoli, and I am the Senior Marketing Manager for Education and Library at DKUS. I'll be moderating this session. What would you do if you weren't afraid? A Q&A with Michal Oshman. But before we begin, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. This is a pre-recorded session, and it will be available in the virtual environment for 3 months. There is no live Q&A, but please feel free to leave your comments on Twitter with the hashtag PRHBookFest. Thank you all for watching today. I'm very excited to be in conversation with Michal Oshman, author of What Would You Do If You Weren't Afraid, available May 4th. Michal Oshman is head of company culture, diversity, and inclusion at TikTok Europe and was formerly responsible for international leadership and team development at Facebook. Throughout her career, Michal has trained and coached hundreds of tech leaders. She served as an officer in the Israeli Defense Forces and has 3 university degrees in psychodynamic and systemic thinking, sociology, and anthropology. Michal lives with her husband and their 4 children in London. What Would You Do If You Weren't Afraid is her first book. As a mentor for leaders in top global companies, Michal created a unique personal growth methodology based on the life-changing principles of Jewish wisdom. It's easy to think that the daily challenges we experience in the 21st century are new and unlike any that people have faced in the past. But Michal draws on her own heritage and a wide range of Jewish teachings to offer practical advice for common concerns, such as a broken heart, parenting, overcoming setbacks, and getting the most out of your career. By challenging you to explore what matters, Michal offers solutions to your everyday struggles. She will empower you as well as teach you to adopt her self-development tools to discover who you really are and what you were born to do with your life. With its uplifting belief that you already have all the ingredients you need to lead a joyous life, Michal's unique mix of corporate culture experience and Jewish wisdom will help you to reconnect with yourself. This unique book will help you to find your courage and move forward freely with no fear at all. Welcome, Michal. I'm so excited to be in conversation with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kristen. I feel like I'm embarrassed just listening to this amazing introduction because normally I'm in your seat and I am kind of in conversation with leaders that I kind of interview and get to know from my work as a leadership development consultant. So thank you so much for the warm welcome, and it feels such a privilege to be here with you. And even though we can't see or hear the audience, I can feel like I have the energy, and we'll be looking at this also as a workshop, an opportunity for people to take some time to reflect about their own lives and their own journeys. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Let's dive right in. So our first question, what would you do if you weren't afraid, is of course a memoir at the heart of it, very personal to you, and arose out of your own struggles. Can you tell us a little bit about the story behind the book and what prompted you to write it?
Yes, of course. So, everyone has their own, unique story. And my story is a story of kind of dealing with mental health challenges and mostly anxiety my whole life. And my whole life, I tried to treat my anxiety, or I looked at my anxiety as an outcome of different events that I experienced in my childhood, growing up with my grandparents who were Holocaust survivors, and hearing my grandmother scream in the night from fear of the Nazis coming to get us, and kind of really fearing for me. I was also exposed to different things in childhood that children shouldn't be exposed to. But we all have our own kind of childhood stories. And for many years I thought that it's impossible to not fear. I went to therapy, took medication, and really tried to get rid of my fear, and rid of the anxiety part of me, but never thought that it was possible to not fear, in the sense of really like live a life that is a much more positive, optimistic life. And it kind of miraculously happened that that when I joined Facebook about 8 years ago, the first thing that I saw on the wall as I started on my first day at Facebook was this sign, and it said, "What would you do if you weren't afraid?" And even though it's like, it wasn't, I felt it was put there for me. So obviously it's a part of the company, motto, and it's an invitation for people to unlimit themselves. But it felt as it spoke to my heart and to my soul, and it triggered a journey. And even though I was searching for many, many, many years in my life, because I saw that sign was out, I think I was 38 or 39. But when I saw that sign, it was a different invitation. It was an invitation to go on a new journey, which is not like for psychology or medication. It was something else. At that point, I didn't know what it was going to be. But then things evolved and I made certain discoveries. But the name of the book is based on that one moment when I realized that, what would I do if I wasn't afraid? So, and it's a question that I think all of us, or I invite people, it's a scary, potentially question, but a very powerful one to ask.
Yeah, very powerful. So you said you this happened, right? You started your new job, you saw that sign, and then you made a life-changing discovery, the one that you were sort of waiting for. What was that?
Yes, and I call it a discovery. I really do, Kristen, because it felt like a discovery. So I was at that point of being my late 30s with 3 kids, thank God, married, and on the outside everything was fine. I was always like, doing all the right things and studying and very functional.
Mhm.
But inside, I was really lost. And for some people, it's for people that never really experienced or have someone close to them that experienced either depression or anxiety, it's sometimes very hard to understand because everything looks fine. Why are you worried? Just like, just get on with it. But when you have these thoughts in your head or experiences or really hard feelings, it's almost impossible to overcome them. And I couldn't find a way to overcome those very, very difficult thoughts and feelings. And then one day in the morning, I was in a very kind of low place. I woke up in the morning and I said, I felt lost, I felt stuck, but again, very, very functional. So I kind of Googled a few words, and for some reason, and I think it's kind of a mini miracle, I Googled anxiety, depression, search for happiness. Like because I used to read every single book that I was on the bookshelf for these things. And for some reason, I added Judaism. So, I'm Israeli, I'm Jewish by birth. I have huge respect. I always had respect for my heritage and my faith, but Judaism wasn't part of my everyday. And I for sure didn't know that there is a spiritual Judaism, that there is a Jewish wisdom. And, I don't know what, comes to mind to people kind of watching us and listening to us today when they hear Judaism. For some people, it will trigger a thought about people dressed in a certain way, or people following different life, rituals or constraints, or maybe someone that's not going to engage with me, or someone very different to me. And for some people, Judaism just, is something that don't want to talk about it. Anti-Semitism, I don't want to go there. So it's kind of, Judaism is kind of it's interesting how different people, it would trigger different thoughts and emotions. But for me, Judaism just meant that I was born Jewish. Um, But as I said, in that really critical moment when I was quite low in my life, I did add Judaism to the search. And then came up from the search results, came up a name of a psychologist who really does a lot of research about spirituality and mental health, and from the angle of Judaism. So I'm not going to tell you the whole story because hopefully you'll read the book. But she suggested that I told her my problems, and she was a more experienced in life lady, a mother of a Hasidic a woman, a Orthodox woman, and she said, listen, I don't understand you, because I was telling her I want to do Botox, I want to look younger, I don't know, I'm aging, like all these problems, or or for me, it wasn't really about the Botox. I was so not fulfilled in myself that I was trying to do things to feel complete, and and did certain things not because I needed them, it's because I needed to take some action. I didn't know how to help myself. And she said, I don't know what you're talking about, but maybe you would you like to go to a Jewish wisdom class? And I did not respond very well to that, because that felt very far away. But I did eventually go to that class, and a door, a kind of a window, I don't know, a whole world opened up. And I kind of unveiled the Jewish wisdom for myself, learned about elements in the Jewish wisdom which are spiritual, which can help a person heal themselves, look at life from a different perspective, think about how they want to live their life, how they want to parent, how to be a wife or a partner, how to what I was thinking about, what kind of daughter I've been all these years, and what kind of daughter I want to be, and a sister. So it just really opened my mind and really my soul to
Mhm.
learning about this wisdom, and wanting to start to adopt some of the principles. And I've been on this journey for the last 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, fantastic. And just, just to be clear, like it's not what you've written in this book can anyone can live by, these wisdoms. It just so happens that they are rooted in Judaism, but they are certainly universal in what they put forth. So
And that's my mission. So, Kristen, that is my mission. My mission is to bring this wisdom, as you said, to the to the universe, because so many of us struggle with mental health, with feeling stuck, with not knowing where we're going. And I felt an obligation to add the Jewish wisdom, as similar to other wisdoms, as another way in people's toolbox to help us go and navigate life. I felt that there was a need to add a voice which was, not a religious rabbinical voice, but a female woman, mother, honest, hopefully vulnerable, but helpful voice, to give tools, to offer tools. So absolutely, this book is written for everyone that wants to spend some time, reflecting on themselves.
yeah. And in it, you pull out 10 sort of principles, 10 things to live by. Um, but you mentioned that Austrian psychiatrist Viktor Frankl was very influential for you. And he mentions he has this idea, which you mentioned, called the existential vacuum, this feeling of emptiness, right? An internal void that comes about when you can't clarify what's meaningful to you. And you've touched on that already, cannot find this true purpose for living despite quote unquote having it all from someone on the outside looking in. And you did, right? A family, a wonderful professional life, and all of that. But how is this idea connected, the idea of existential the existential vacuum and not being fulfilled, connected to Jewish wisdom?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. So first of all, as you said, many of us make mistakes by looking at, what we see from people on the outside, and making assumptions that, if they appear to being in peace with themselves and feeling comfortable in their skin, then they probably do. And that's just a wrong assumption. We never know what's going in people's lives. And, even if it seems like people have like a family around them, you can feel very, very lonely, even with you're surrounded with, with children or a sibling or a partner. So we never really know. And we have to remember that. Viktor Frankl is someone that is true inspiration to me and to millions of other people that read Man's Search for Meaning. And we all know that Viktor Frankl is a Holocaust survivor. He passed by now, but he survived Auschwitz, and he wrote Man's Search for Meaning because he made a discovery in Auschwitz when he observed and kind of wearing his psychiatrist hat. What was it about the people that, functioned better? And that's a horrible way to describe this, in Auschwitz, and had a greater kind of potential to survive from their own perspective, because no one controlled anything apart from trying to navigate their thoughts. And what he realized is that people that had a really huge will inside of them, a motivation, a passion, a mission inside them for life after Auschwitz, after the Holocaust, are the ones that just showed more, were kind of fighting more for life. In the almost impossible of realities. And after Auschwitz, as he developed logotherapy, the therapy of meaning, he coined this term. I believe he coined the term existential vacuum. And what he said is that we can see the numbers of huge amount of people suffering with anxiety and depression, and often what we miss is that actually for those people who really are experiencing these feelings as anxiety or depression, what they really suffer from is existential vacuum. Sorry, English is not my first language. I can say this much better in Hebrew. But this vacuum, inside of us, when you said before, we're lost, or we don't know exactly where we're going, and we feel this void, this vacuum inside of us, and this is. And this just makes life a challenge, because you wake up in the morning and you're asking yourself, is this it? Is this life? And yeah, I have a beautiful home and this and that. Like, is there something else? Can someone tell me? I reached 40. I thought I would discover this by then. So these are questions that many people are asking themselves, and Jewish wisdom has an answer to that. Because Jewish wisdom argues that each of us have a unique soul. So, Kristen, you have your soul and I have mine. And we arrive to this world with our unique soul, a godly soul. And our soul is here kind of, all covered in a body to fulfill a mission, to be something, to make something happen. We have a task. We're here for a reason. And many of us spend our lives doing things. And if you ask people, like, do you have a soul? I think many people would say, probably do. But like, so what's your soul? Like, what's your soul story? And they're like, no, they'll tell you a story of something that happened to them, maybe, in life. But the soul was there way before we had, interactions in kindergarten, or or arguments with our parents. That's kind of, this is our essence. So Jewish wisdom invites us to go back to our essence and to reconnect to that thing that we were born to be, and be curious and brave about it. And once we discover that, then how can we take action and fulfill our mission? And there's not one mission. So I really want to say that, because often when I coach leaders and they're like, I don't know what my purpose is. It's like, it's not one purpose. Purpose will change as we evolve as humans. But the search for purpose and knowing that you have a mission here and you have a unique role to play, that's the essence of Jewish wisdom.
Amazing and so inspirational. There was another sort of turning point that you mentioned in the book, though smaller than the first one you've mentioned about discovering Jewish wisdom as a whole. You share a story about walking home from the subway on a Friday afternoon in London, just ahead of the start of Shabbat, which is, you know, the the holy day, right? The start of the holy day celebrations on Friday evening, sundown, and hearing a group of men singing a traditional song about crossing a very narrow bridge. And it goes, the whole world is a very narrow bridge, a very narrow bridge, a very narrow bridge. And the main thing is to have no fear, to have no fear at all. This had a profound impact on you. Can you tell us more about the song, its meaning, and the influence that it had on your outlook?
Absolutely. And even hearing those words now, I mean, honestly, when you say that in English, I say it in my head in Hebrew. And anyone that's kind of Jewish or spent some time with the Jewish community, it's a song. It's a cultural song, and I sang it when I was growing up in Israel as an officer in the military. It's a spiritual song, and it's a very simple song. And this song was kind of the words were written about 300 years ago, by kind of a Hasidic Jewish leader who really recognized how the Jewish community was really suffering in Eastern Europe, suffering from lack of resources, from poverty, from anti-Semitism, and really struggling. And he was trying to think, how can I empower people, and what is the message that the Jewish script has about struggle and about challenge. And the message is that we always stand in front of bridges, big bridges, small bridges, solid bridges, like wobbly ones, but we always have those bridges, and we're afraid to cross the bridge. And today a bridge could be going out a date with someone that you're not sure is the right person for you, or applying for a role when you see that so many other people are applying for, and you're saying, like, what are my chances? Or going back to dancing after not dancing for 20 years and saying, do I still have it in myself to kind of to move my body? It's those things that where our confidence or our self, or actually we just don't know if we're up for the challenge. But the message in Judaism, and it has been this very strong message, for thousands of years, that cross the bridge. Cross the bridge. Don't take, of course, don't risk your life. Don't do stupid things. But if you identify an opportunity, something you thought about, and you see it in front of you, and inside of you that you can do it, but there's no policies and no assurance, no confirmation, that take that one step. Take the one step. Go on that date. Apply for that role. Yes, try that one dance lesson. I have goosebumps when I'm saying that, because I've coached in my life hundreds and hundreds of people, and many of them are reluctant to take that step, and often would miss an opportunity, or not learn about themselves by that. So of course the message is, don't take risk. But when you have a bridge and it's one that you think you should cross, then take the step.
Yes.
And Judaism believes in taking a step, having a community around you.
Mm-hmm.
So as a coach and as a mother, my recommendation to my children and my coaches, and I'm not comparing, these are two different relationships, is like, when you decide to cross a bridge, can you get a few people to share that bridge that you're about to cross? Can you tell them, I'm about to cross this thing, I need you? Because crossing a bridge with support is a different experience than crossing a bridge all by yourself.
Of course. Fantastic. So we're having this conversation just before the start of the Jewish holiday of Passover, but I think once everyone hears this, it will have just ended. But nevertheless, we are having this conversation for everyone around the days of Passover. And you talk about Passover in your first chapter. Why is this Jewish holiday especially meaningful to you?
And it's so special that we're talking 2 days before Passover 2021, which again is going to be a different Passover, to the many of those that were before 2020. Still at least in Europe, a lockdown Passover, and I know many people watching this are the US and different places in the world. So yes, Passover is one of the most important or most meaningful, I guess, spiritual kind of moments to celebrate in Judaism. But actually, we in Judaism, we mention in many ways Passover every single day in daily prayers. So this is relevant for every day in the year. So, many people, when they hear Passover, they may not know what this holiday is about, or if they do, they will think it's about, eating a certain food and cleaning the house, which I do admit I've been cleaning all day, and I just managed to get my hair done just after the cleaning. So just it's real. That's why I don't have nail varnish today. And so they kind of see the outside of the celebration, the cover, the sitting together and having beautiful food. But actually, Passover is an extremely spiritual holiday, as I said, because it's an invitation for people to think about themselves. And when they do the physical cleaning at the house, when we look for, dirt or breadcrumbs or anything that's around, what we're really doing at the same time is looking for that dust and that stuff that we need to get rid of in ourselves. So the physical cleaning is just a way for us to create space to really think about, what is it inside myself that I want to let go of and get rid of and leave behind to set myself free? So it's a holiday that asks us to look at our egos, at that stuff that takes space. That's why we eat matzah, which is a flat bread, and not challah, which is a puffy kind of very, very yummy bread.
Yeah.
And we every Friday we eat that, but during Passover we eat the flat, humble, egoless bread. So Passover is a time to think about, yes, we kind of escaped from Egypt, the physical Egypt, thousands of years ago, but there's still that need to release or set ourselves free inside of ourselves. It's a freedom within our thoughts rather than a physical freedom. So every day is an opportunity to free ourselves from our ego, for things that are thoughts that are in our way, thoughts that are kind of making us not cross the bridge,
Right.
or not believe that we can cross the bridge. But Passover is that one big moment of an invitation to take a pause, to take a moment and say, what are your unhelpful thoughts, behaviors? For me, at some point, and I already, I'm being totally open, in my very low point at some, at my journey before this discovery, as I mentioned, I was kind of messing up with my face. Again, I told you, like, different things. And I decided to let go of that. I decided, and not that I don't care about how I look, but I realized that it was just, it was something I did, and actually I needed to look elsewhere. So it's also a holiday to invite you to look for balance, to look for balance and to make some commitments to yourself of how you can set yourself a bit more free and fearless, hopefully, for the coming year.
Yeah. And I think that's something like we can all sort of take away in this time too, as we've been in lockdown for a year, right? Things are seeming like they'll begin to open up. So we're all going to need a little bit of extra self cleanse and a little set of crossing the bridge even to get back to normal life. So I think there's certainly plenty, even more so than in normal times, that we can all take away from this book and what you have so vulnerably shared. So there are so many profound and memorable one-line takeaways that you impart in your book. But one of my favorites is, there is nothing more complete than a broken heart. And that's something we can all relate to. But can you tell us a bit more about the quote and your meaning behind it?
Yes, it's one of my absolute favorite quotes. And for anyone that knows the language of Hebrew, in Hebrew, it's the way you say it is, um, En shalem kelev shavur. And just those words in Hebrew are ancient words, and very, very special, very, very, very deep meaning. The reason, so this is again kind of a Hasidic saying, and the reason I care so much about this is, well, we all got our hearts kind of, broken at some point of our lives, unfortunately. And unfortunately, we broke other people's hearts, as well. And I grew up in a home which, I was kind of trying to be perfect, and I thought that I should be perfect from the outside, from the inside, for my degrees, like, just, perfect. Today I have a very different point of view, but that was the story I told myself. And one of my, there was a guy that completely broke my heart. I was in love with him, and I thought he was the one. And when he left me in a very heartbreaking, way, semi-humiliating. You can read about it more in the book. I was heartbroken, and it was 20 some years ago. So always when you look back at these things, you say, well, but in the moment or in that year, I couldn't function. I was broken to pieces. And when I discovered, and I wanted to get those pieces together. So I wanted to mend my heart and just get my heart to be exactly the same before he broke it. But what I learned about Jewish wisdom is that, there's nothing more complete than a broken heart. And the reason for that is that that's the only way to grow. Because once your heart is intact, like, where there's no space for growth. But once your heart is broken, which is what life will do, unfortunately, but it will, then there's a gap for growth between the pieces, for maturity, for humility, for empathy, for caring more for people, for understanding what's good for you and what's not good for you. And unfortunately, or fortunately, these things can grow only in the pieces in between. So that's why I love this saying so much. And I teach my children this when they come back from school, sometimes very disappointed. Of course, I'm there to comfort, but I also help them understand that this some breaking are for growth. I believe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No truer words have maybe ever been spoken, and something that we can all relate to, as you say. So, this book, it really has a takeaway for everyone to live by, as I'm sure our listeners, our viewers, can tell by now. Wisdom on life in general, professional and leadership approaches, and parenting. So, your parenting philosophy is based on Jewish wisdom as well. Can you share a couple of the key principles that guide you as a mother to four children?
Yes, absolutely. And I don't want to be, obviously respectful of people's times, and I won't elaborate too much. But actually, in the book, I spent quite a bit of time, speaking about parenting. And by the way, I'm the kind of mother that before I became a mother, and or in the early days of motherhood, I never read books. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna, I was so anxious about becoming a mother that I just almost like didn't want to think about it. And but obviously it's my biggest job, to be a mother. So I wanted a very, once I realized how big this thing is to develop people, so I started educating myself. And I always thought, I always thought that I should really kind of almost like push my children to be someone or something. In a way, that's the story I told myself of how my parents raised me. But then I discovered that Jewish wisdom has a completely different way of thinking about educating. And again, nothing is perfect, but I learned that King Solomon, thousands of years ago, kind of guided parents to raise children by their soul.
Mhm.
So the idea is that as a parent, when you give birth, when you raise a child, they have a soul, and their soul is already holding, as we said, a mission, a something that they're here to do. So it's not really helpful if we make them become doctors, or if we push them away from passions that they have, because we're telling ourselves a story of what they should do or they could be. The essence, the mission of a parent on a good day, because all of us have challenging days as parents, is to guide our children by the soul, to understand, to try to help the child discover their essence. That does not come without boundaries. So I'm a huge believer in boundaries. And I think that, today, in many ways, we need boundaries more than ever, because it could feel like a boundaryless world. So the way that I guide my children, my husband and I developed our family values, the things that we really care about, which is about, being a mensch, being a kind person, a giver, a supporter, an honest kind of person, as much as you can. We all have like evil inclination inside of us. We created a value around keeping the holy day of Shabbat as a space to sit together in a family and, look at each other's eyes. And of course, everyone can practice their unique space and holiness as a family. It doesn't have to be a religious holiness. It could just be a 2 nights, a week when there's no phones or never phones, which I'm not successful at. So what I combine is guide my children by their soul with some healthy boundaries and clear family values. And then that's something that we are very, very serious about and very committed to. So, I spent a lot of time thinking about parenting. There is no perfect parent, and I'm sure not in that category, but it's something that I care about deeply. And it's one of those things that, it's going to evolve if you invest in it or not. So better try to facilitate the kind of parent you'd like to be, rather than just kind of wing it, I guess. So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
but
And
I
and we
make lots of mistakes. So this is about trial, fail, error, correct, right? This is like no
right.
perfect solution.
Right. And as you say, start small, 2 or 3 values, pick 2 or 3, 4 values and focus on those and cross your narrow bridges one at a time, right? And yeah, it all is coming full circle, as you can see, viewers and like our librarian friends who are watching. So just to sort of wrap it up, and this will help harken back to it all coming together as well. The final chapter is called Return to Yourself. And that is the last of the 10 principles that you offer in What Would You Do If You Weren't Afraid? What does returning to yourself mean?
Yep. So these, it's hard to give a 2 minutes answer for these very, very deep concepts. So, forgive me that I'm really kind of condensing it. So the essence of return to yourself is actually the concept of Judaism of the day of atonement, of Yom Kippur, for anyone that knows this word in Hebrew. And many people think that actually Yom Kippur or atonement is like something very negative, full of blame and suffering. It's not. Yom Kippur is the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. It's a day, similar to Passover. It's an invitation. It's a call for reflection, and it's a call for action. It's a call to take a minute or a day, 26 hours, and really kind of have a very, very honest conversation with yourself about the journey that you've been on in the past year, and ask yourself, am I on the right journey? Am I being the person that I want to be, or that I have the potential to be? Am I with people in the way that makes me feel proud of myself and feel good in myself? And if not, then be honest and, own it. Say sorry, course correct, and make some commitments to yourself, because this is between you and, this is you don't have to advertise this on Facebook. This is an internal dialogue that you have. how do I want to bring myself to the world in this coming year, and what do I want to change, and make that commitment, and also communicate to people around you that you are owning things that you've done wrong. So teshuva in Hebrew is returning to yourself, and that's positive. That's positive. And one of the reasons I love Jewish wisdom, or any culture, it helps us with dates in the year, occasions, moments, because our inclination is to run fast and to take a moment to reflect, to make some lessons, course correct, but always carry on with joy. And that's the last thing I love about the wisdom that I discovered. Everything has to be done with joy. Mistakes, I make so many of them. I made one today. I want to kick myself, like, right, okay, I made that mistake. I wouldn't own it, but I'm carrying on to the second, to the next, to the third day. So that's the last chapter is about returning to yourself, to who you are here to be and to do, to all the greatness that you carry inside you.
Fantastic. And do you want to end by asking the viewers one question? And what is the title of your book?
Absolutely.
Leave them with some with their thoughts percolating on how they can do just that.
I first of all, I want to say thank you for anyone and everyone that has spent the last hour with us. And I just want to invite you, if you're into it, and if it's relevant for you to, at this point of your life, ask yourself, what would you do if you weren't afraid, and how can you get there?
Thank you so much, Michal, for your inspirational words for this book and for your time today. You've shared so much wisdom with us just within this past, 45 minutes or so. And I hope that everyone on this is inspired and will go out and add what would you do if you weren't afraid to their library collections, so that whole communities of patrons can have the chance to read the book. And as a reminder, the book is available on May 4th, and it will be available in both hardcover and audiobook read by Michal herself. So you've heard her today. She's amazing and inspirational. So we hope that you'll add one or both of those formats to your library collection. As for today's event, please be sure to check out the exhibit hall where you can visit sponsors' booths, including DK. We have all kinds of giveaways for you. And remember, the entire environment is available for 3 months. Thank you so much again, everyone. And thank you, Michal. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you.